Welcome, Diecast fans, to a very special DRN report.
That's right, we've featured over 120 different channels since we started in May last year, and we're taking a look back at a few of them.
Welcome, Diecast fans. I'm Tom Spanners Watson.
And I'm Frank the Guru Gibbs.
And this is a very special 50th episode celebration for us. We wanted to go right back to the very beginning. As Frank mentioned, we've featured over 120 tracks and it all started in May last year.
Yeah, this first episode we only had 4 tracks, so a huge thanks to RTR, Tune Tracks and Hot Car Track for supporting us and letting us use their footage so that we could highlight some of the other tracks that are happening out in the diecast world.
And this was back in the day when we had the original Canyon as well, and that track put on a lot of excitement. And then of course you had Mike Mays over at RTR.
Yeah, Mays Mountain Motor Speedway has had some absolutely epic tournaments, and right back at the start he had those great overtakes happening.
And the original Hot Car track as well. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit since he started.
Yeah, and of course now he's got 2 tracks and he's doing 3D printed stuff for sale as well.
And Tune Tracks have done a wide range of races. They used to sit up in their lounge with a different track like every time.
That's right. So that first week was a pretty short episode. I think it was only about 4 minutes. But then we moved on to the next week, and by that stage we had a few more tracks that were letting us use their footage.
That's right, the big one was 3D Bot Maker, so huge shout out to Adriel for that one. We really appreciate you being part of this report. Obviously you got us and a huge number of other people involved in this sport.
And then Beaverworks came on board, and you know, we've talked about the Stone Road before. We just love this track, and this was one of the first episodes we saw.
Yeah, that was just so cool. And DRC, these guys hand built this track, so there's nothing you could go to the store and buy for this track. Everything was handmade and it was just phenomenal.
And we also got to know Mark over at Jackson Pass Speedway. So this was another really cool track. Enjoyed watching it come together and grow as well. He's a bit quiet now though.
And Robbie over at Diecast 64E was doing something a bit different, not just racing but actually going out and taking photos and teaching you how to take better photos of your cars too. So the first 2 episodes were down. Let's have a quick look at number 3 and number 4. That's right, that particular week we didn't have any new tracks to add, but we did add Frank's Speed and Custom Corner, where I showed you some photos I'd taken of my hot rods that I'd built over the years. And we also offered a challenge up to our viewers, and they posted some of their photos, which was really cool, and we tried to feature as many of those as we could. But we did end up stopping that idea because we just weren't getting the photos submitted through for the reports. And then the 4th episode we tried out the virtual studio, remember that? Yeah mate, that was a lot of fun. We should maybe bring that back. So Diecast Dragger started to join us about that stage. So again, we were still very new. And we also had Track Attack. Yeah, what happened to those guys? This was a great drag track. Lots of good camera angles, and then it just seemed to disappear. I don't know if it got renamed or something. And then Grassroots Racing, we had Diecast Racing Portugal and their little homemade track as well. It was a short and brutal track too. And it was the first time we had Stunt of the Week as well. And you know, there was a lot of action happening at the Canyon, and this particular one, I think this was Po Boy, was it? I don't know, mate, but this was just such a cool manoeuvre. When rides around on his side, does a full rollover. Right back then, the Canyon was just bringing the action all the way. It was a lot of fun back on that track. Moving on to June 2020, and episode 5 came out, and it was also the premiere issue of Diecast Racing Report. We also started to feature upcoming events, but there were just so many, it's better to have them all run off redlinederby.com. June was also the first time we got to feature Mr. Mom's Racing. Absolutely love that track, and thanks very much to those guys for coming on board. And then this here is League of Speed. Now, League of Speed a top contender, but that track just kind of disappeared a few months ago as well.
And Lamb Chops does live drag racing. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that one. Now this track has gone quiet as well. Indonesia Diecast Racing. So this is another completely hand-built track. These guys did a great job getting these corners all banked up like that. And there was some crazy action on their track.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I don't know what happened to them. And then Sub 4RA. So again, another guy that had been around for quite a while, was running his stock car races, and there was some awesome action on these short tracks, and he's still doing a lot of this sort of stuff as well, which is great to see.
Then we've got War on I-4. So this was his original track. It's gone through some major upgrades to what we're seeing now, and he's got that massive multi-track start gate.
And then there was Peter B, remember him? He came in strong, and now there's no diecast racing on his channel whatsoever.
Yeah, apparently now it's all about Jehovah's Witnesses. Then we got Pena Tabua. So these guys, you know, we talk about this all the time. Don't let the space you've got hold you back from making racing.
Yeah, but speaking of space, Rocky Mountain Diecast Racing League was a huge track, and lots of action on this one.
That's right, and of course the original Indiana Diecast Racing League track. Man, that takes me back.
Yeah, this was so cool. Again, get set up, get racing, get videoing. Don't worry about having the perfect track, the perfect diorama and that sort of stuff.
And this was the time that Sub 4RA got stunt of the week, or crash of the week I think we called it. That dude came around the corner, looked like he was going to slide across the finish, and even with all those cars pushing past him, he couldn't do it.
Heartbreaking to watch, but also great entertainment. So we're not going to go through every single week. We're going to jump forward now to episode 10 and pick up some of the new tracks that had started to come on board as well. And my all-time favourite has to be Flat Rabbit Racing.
Yeah, that's right. That was the original track. I forgot it looked like that. Oh, and they had that mid-track jump and the fire finish line. Man, that was so cool. These guys have just been innovators from the very start.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And then GNR Vintage Diecast Racing had all sorts of cool tracks. This one they called the Big Kahuna, and that was a lot of fun as well.
Now, Nine's Diecast have been doing a lot of 9-pack racing, and that's really cool. Again, they upgraded their track, added a couple of extra sections to it, but they started with a simple track, they got going, and that's what really matters. We said it before, don't wait, get into it now.
Now, Diecast Racer X, this guy's been around for like 10 or more years. He puts on something ridiculous like almost 1,000 races a year. It's pretty much all live, and then he does one slow motion replay. There's no commentary, no music or anything like that, but man, there's some good racing.
And then it was time for a change at Burco Raceway for Hotwheels Calgary when they went to their fat track.
Yeah, now they've gone back to drag racing, which was their thing. And speaking of drag racing, we also premiered Wallside Racing in episode 10. So that was quite a big one, and we just love that death drop. It's just created so much action and fun over the years.
The classic replay of the week was when Flat Rabbit decided to blow up part of their set for their story.
Yeah, their stories are so cool. I love how in depth they go. It's more than just racing, it's a whole event. It's like watching a movie.
And of course, we also tried something a bit different with the premiere of Stuntman Sam back in July last year. I think it was about the 27th we had the very first one. This was the second Stuntman Sam episode where he took this huge big 18-wheeler and jumped the canyon.
Yeah, that was an absolutely epic jump. I mean, Sam did such a good job controlling that truck, and that's why we let him jump over us tonight in his modified pickup.
Yeah, I still felt nervous. I was sure he was going to clock me in the back of the head.
Nah, no chance of that, mate. He's a pro.
So it's now end of July 2020, and we were sitting at about 700 subs, and we introduced the brand new canyon layout, which worked out really well for us, but there was still plenty of other tracks coming online. Here we had Widowmaker Run. He's got a huge fat track, but he started with a drag race track there as well.
Rust Belt Racing have been home to a number of awesome race series and great tracks. They built all sorts of different ones over the time. This particular Skydrop drag track was brutal, and I just loved this accident back in the day. And they used to do a huge amount of consecutive Facebook Live videos as well.
Then we started to get quite a few drag tracks. We had We Race Diecast with their lane to fat track, and then DAE just with their straight 6-lane dragway.
And then this one here from Sonora. These guys have always just put on some crazy shows, but I love this one with Wario here, just doing this absolutely epic breakdancing move.
That's so cool. Oh, Sonora, you're always a lot of fun. And then GOAT Racing, or Greatest of All Time Racing, took a break for a while. He said he was coming back and then still hasn't posted for quite a while, but go back and watch some of the early races because there was some very high quality drag racing.
And by this stage we also had my Hotwheels collection come on board and the original M&M racing track.
That's right, it was so long ago I forgot that that's where they started with that drag track. And they did a couple of outdoor races as well, if my memory serves.
Yeah, I think they did, mate.
Yeah, and of course now they've gone to their own Fat Track custom permanent build.
Then Transport Diecast was underway, and of course he was the first track for the DIRS. Now, if you're somehow not familiar with the DIRS, there's a link on the video right now that will take you to the playlist that will show you the races on every single track, every race, all the way back from the very beginning back in January.
And of course, another DRN regular, Cleveland City Diecast, putting on some awesome racing. And then Live Young Diecast, another DIRS track with one of their early iterations.
That's right, those guys changed up their track quite a bit before they moved to their new permanent place.
And it was about that time as well that we had Mac Mountain join us. They've also started up a couple of different track styles, from drag racing to fat track, and then meal ticket racing.
Oh, the original configuration, it was still a monster big track, but it's definitely got bigger in this latest iteration of that track.
Now DRC built another brand new track, Yard Race. Now this was a really cool track. Again, a mixture of lanes and fat track, and all completely hand custom built. These guys do such a good job.
Yeah, they sure do. Checkered Flag Contention did some great races right from the start as well. That was their pickup race, where it was about how many boxes you made it to the finish line with. And Diablo Ridge was another one that started, burst on the scene, was doing lots and lots of races and quite interesting events like these monster truck ones here, and then just disappeared seemingly overnight.
And of course, Stuntman Sam in that truck that he jumped over us tonight, doing the flaming hoops.
I'm glad we didn't do the flaming hoops tonight.
Yeah, me too. Now, Irons Diecast not only built this track, but he's also put those green clips on Thingiverse. So if you've got a 3D printer and you're wanting to build something like that, you can go on and download that file.
And then we've got Summers Raceway putting on lots of short, clean drag races on their 6-lane track.
Irwell Ridge, that's right, I remember this one. The channel never really took off. This guy built this awesome outdoor track, and then it just kind of faded away.
Oh man, that looks so good. I'd love to have seen more of that one. Man, there's so many tracks that have started and shut down within the 18 months that we've been doing this. But we're going to skip forward again now to November 2020 and episode 25 and have a look at some of the other new tracks that we'd started to feature in the DRN reports.
So Redline Derby Racing had set up a new track after his original one got flooded out, and of course Red Pill Racing came on board with us. And then Michael's Diecast Garage.
Yeah, haven't seen much from Michael's Diecast Garage for a while. I wonder if his tracks are still up.
Well, last I checked, there's a video comes out every couple of months maybe.
He definitely hasn't posted regularly for quite a while. Now this was Josh over at Rust Belt Racing's special fat track that he put up. I don't know if this one's still running, but it was definitely a lot of fun, and I love that mid-track jump. It was just brutal.
Oh man, and remember this one, Alamo City.
Yeah, this guy has so much memorabilia around his track. It's just awesome. And that dude there just taking a shortcut all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, but look how massive this track is and how far it goes around all of that cool stuff.
Yeah, but unfortunately it's another track that just seems to have fallen by the wayside.
And then Hawkeye Hauler Diecast seems to do a different style of race with a whole new track pretty much every time he sets up a video.
And of course, that was about the time that we started doing the Canyon Outlaws as well.
That's right, you were still driving back then.
Yeah, I decided to retire, and I'd just rather stay in the booth and do my racing in my own time.
Well, Jade Monkey was a weapon, at least it went out on top. Then Poverty Hollow joined us about this time as well, so you can see that his tracks changed slightly in configuration and upgrade. And 3D did this one-off series. He built this monster Minecraft track. I believe it took him hours and hours to print and apply all of that Minecraft stuff, and it did really well. It's got like over 1 million views. 3D definitely knows what he's doing.
And then Flat Rabbit extended their track into closer configuration to what we know today. And again, that track has just always put on some great racing and great overtakes, like this maneuver right here. Look at that. That's just brilliant.
Yeah, I love that track as well. Now, Scorpio Lovesmith has done a huge number of videos and a huge number of variety of races, everything from fat track to drag, indoor, outdoor, you name it, he's probably done it.
And remember Fraser Ridge? This guy had like 400 subs before his channel even had a proper video on it. Everyone was really pumped for it. He put out one series and then just stopped completely.
Yeah, I don't know if life got in the way or if he decided he didn't have time to do it, but he put a lot of time and effort into building that track.
Yeah, that was an absolutely huge track and a lot of theming.
Now we move on to January this year.
That's right, it was about this time that we jumped up to about 4,500 subs thanks to our Helix video, and our channel really started to fly.
Speaking of flying, Blue Line Racing has just put on top quality drag racing from the beginning, and then Simpsons Diecast Racing started doing daily drag races as well.
And then Main Street came on board, so they've been doing lots of good stuff.
Yeah, very consistent and a regular on this show.
And then Joe's Garage was a really nicely put together drag track. Looked like he put on some good races, but the channel just didn't seem to last.
And it was about that time that we were put onto Top Driver as well. They've become a staple in these reports as they're putting out good regular content, and of course that track just looks fantastic.
And Diecast Dragger had to move his track. He built this amazingly long outdoor track, and dude, props again for racing out in the ice and the snow. I'm all about beaches in sun, mate. None of that snow nonsense for me.
This one here was Roadrunner Raceway, one of their early tracks. So this is another track that's gone through quite a few different iterations over the time. And M&M started up their new track early this year as well. So this is much closer to the configuration that you see nowadays, but you'll notice that there have been a few changes.
Not to mention a full diorama set up around it. Diecast Racing Report started up their own channel, and this was from their Pinks for a Cure race.
Oh, that's right, the charity race. Now, the other big thing to happen in January was, of course, the DIRS kicked off over at Transport Diecast Racing. It's just been a monster series, and a huge thanks to all the tracks that were involved.
And then Indiana Diecast Racing started up his new track, and he had the plethora of party wagons, and those things were just crazy.
And of course, he's just finished up the Sock Hop Slam, which was a massive 172 car tournament. And speaking of massive, DRC built their third track in a year, and this is just all hand-built, custom, fully dioramaed.
I don't know how he does that many builds in a year with that level of detail.
And then Bay City burst on the scene as well, and there's been a few changes to his track layout over time, but right from the beginning he's been putting on great races and putting on great overtakes like that one over there.
Yeah, there's definitely been some pretty epic battles on that track, and I really love the theme of San Francisco. And of course, Commotion Diecast's original track was great, nice diorama, but they've completely changed it up, but the same classic commentary through the whole thing.
Mussenbach came on the scene, copped a lot of flack from 3Ds fans because he did basically copy the whole layout and setup of his track, but he hasn't put anything on for at least 4 months now.
And then Beaverworks premiered their Rock Drop Jump, and we just love that one as well. It's just so much fun. And Warside had moved inside, and I can't remember if it was because of the weather or if something else had happened, but they started running a bunch of indoor races on Fat Track for something a little bit different as well.
Man, it's just amazing looking back at all this old footage from all these different tracks and seeing how much everybody's changed and what they're doing with their tracks now.
There sure has been a lot of change. Now, Chapman Films also finally let us use their footage, so we've featured them quite a bit as well, but there hasn't been a lot of racing recently due to an illness.
Torman Turan built this custom track where he's also made his own DIY Sizzler cars out of current Hot Wheels cars and runs them on this track. Now, the videos are a little bit inconsistent in terms of timing, which is why we haven't put them into many reports, but they are still racing and they've got a brand new track out, so go and check that one out. It is quite interesting.
Then it's Game Table Cafe. Now, these guys put up quite a few races initially, but then there hasn't been anything on their channel for about 3 months.
And Monster Motorsports, yet another DIRS track.
Yeah, that's another great build.
Rubber Toe did such an amazing job on this. I love the full monster theme on it with the kaiju and the Jaegers. It's very, very cool, and he's put on some great tournaments so far.
Yeah, there's been some epic action on that track, and watch out for Gate 3. We're going to jump forward again now, and we're going to go to April 2021 and episode 40.
The reason this one's important is because we rebranded from the DSPN to the DRN.
That's right, we thought it just fitted a little bit better with what it actually was. And at about that time, Josh over at Rust Belt Racing was doing Micro Machine Racing because they'd just been relaunched to the market.
Brunhilde Hills were doing some stunt tracks, and Garden Canyon Run opened up an extra section of track, and then we had a couple of newbies come in.
That's right, Diecast GT started up, and again this is another track that's gone quite quiet just recently.
Yeah, I think their last race was like 3 months ago.
But Next Gen Racing, he's been absolutely smashing it. He's already up to like 800,000 views on his channel. He's only put out 20 videos and he's got almost 7,000 subscribers.
Then Gwingoyo came on. Now this track didn't last long. They pulled it down and now they've rebuilt it completely. And now it's got that really cool sunset kind of look to it all.
Commotion Diecast relaunched their track. It was brand new, much longer than the old track, and they've changed the theme completely, but it looks really cool.
And speaking of new tracks, 3D premiered his new rally track. Now he took a lot of flack with the very first qualifiers, I think it was. People were complaining, oh, it's too slow, all the rest of it. But 3D, as always, had it sorted, and people are loving it since then.
Yeah, it's a good series, and it's nice to see him still adding to that track as well.
Now this is HH Racing. He put out about I think it was just under 10 videos, and then kind of stopped about 3 months ago.
And this is Gravity Track GP, so he started with some outdoor drag racing and then he's moved inside to a slightly more permanent track. And Tokyo Diecast, another person just not letting a lack of space and a lack of equipment stop him from putting out racing. And this is Chuck Stewart is the channel name, but it was Florida Diecast, put out a few races as well early on.
And Gravity Throttle Racing launched today as well. That was a huge leap forward in tracks. It's the only one I've seen so far that has the drift corners in it. And of course he's got this wicked egg beater section at the end of it.
Oh heck yeah, you know we love a good rally track over at the Canyon, and this is just a beauty.
So we hope you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane. It's been amazing for us going back through all that old footage and actually seeing where a lot of the tracks started.
Yeah, that's right. If you haven't seen them, go back and check them out.
And look, I know we've missed tracks. We've tried to fit as many as we can in, but there's only so much time. Alright, thanks very much for watching. I'm Tom Spanners Watson. He's Frank the Guru Gibbs. If you haven't subbed yet, make sure you hit that button, leave us a like and leave us a comment. We look forward to seeing you next time.